I'm Robert Bauval, the co-author of the Master Game with Graham Hancock. What is the Master Game? Who is playing it? And what is the prize of this game? Originally on one side of the Master Game chessboard were the Crusaders, the European Crusaders that were utterly obsessed to recapture the city of Jerusalem, starting from the 10th century onwards. On the other side were the Muslim jihadists, those who were going to save the Holy Land against the Crusaders. The problem with this game, or rather with the prize, with the city of Jerusalem, and more precisely the Temple Mount, where sits today the famous Dome on the Rock and the Aqsa Temple belonging to the Muslim cult, is that the three major religions, Judaism, Christianity and Islam, have an historical claim that is so important that drove genocides, horrible wars that lasted for nearly 500 years to recapture one side, recapturing the other for several centuries. However, eventually the city of Jerusalem fell into Muslim hands after the capture of Jerusalem by Salah ad-Din in the 13th century. And there was a hush, a kind of feeling of loss in the Western world. An idea came to recreate the idea of Jerusalem in the West. A first attempt was taken to build a kind of new Jerusalem in London. In the hands of this plan was the Masonic societies in the early 18th century. Eventually, this concept of a kind of chosen people, a kind of New Jerusalem, was exported in the New World, in the United States. And the epicenter of this new Jerusalem world, this new culture that was going to dominate, was going to be the city of Washington. In other words, that the crusading movement, the main players, one of the main players in this Master Game, became the Masonic societies. And this is why the Arab world perceives a kind of modern crusade. But more importantly, all comes to focus in 1948 when the State of Israel was created, completely supported, in fact, indeed given birth by the US President Harry Truman, and prior to him, the great support of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Now, these two presidents were senior Masons in the Scottish Rites, the so-called 33rd degree Masonic Rites, that is regarded as the super elite and super controlling order of the Masonic societies. So it's not surprising that from that time onwards, from 1948 onwards, the Arab world on the other side began to see a kind of Masonic, come American, come Zionist movement to recapture not only the city of Israel, but to dominate the whole Arab world. I have spent 40 years of my life in the Middle East. And although it may not be so well known in the Western world, there is a general belief that Freemasons is synonymous to Zionist. The Arab use the word Masuni, which immediately in their mind means Zionist. This is very confusing because why would they associate immediately the Freemasons to a Zionist movement, and particularly the American Freemasons? This is exactly why it is not surprising that in their minds the creation of Israel, formed by an American president who was a senior Freemason, who was lobbied heavily by the Zionist movement, and who ratified the State of Israel in 1948 against the opinion of the United Nations and against the opinions of his own Congress, is in fact bringing about an ancient dream that eventually came into the hands of the Masons, the re-establishment of the ancient Jewish state with the Temple of Solomon. Well, clearly on the side of the jihadists, it's still the same game. Bin Laden made it very clear that their objective is the recapture of Jerusalem and the restoration of the land of Palestine to the jihadists. But what is it on the other side? Are we being lured into thinking that the motion of the Western world in relation to the Arab world is the establishment of democracy, is the establishment of a safe world where energy can be supplied from one side to the other? Or is it still that same game? Are there people behind the scenes still playing for this prize? This is the question that the master game wants to resolve.